Okay, so we are back with our CIA interrogation, and our next guest is the one and only
Adam Ondra, which it says actually in the title here.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes. So surprise, surprise, it's Adam Ondra.
Surprise, surprise. So the one of the best climbers in the world from the Czech Republic. Same as me.
Yeah, but you're Swiss.
Yes, I'm Swiss now.
Okay. Adam is in Flatanger right now.
Yes. So he was in Flatanger right now.
When we said this, yes. But
Yeah.
right now he might be there again. We don't know.
He may, hopefully not.
I don't think we have to introduce him more than saying he's Adam Ondra, right?
No, that says all.
So here we go. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Hello, Adam.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, guys. Just trying to find a good space. The guys in the kitchen might be noisy.
And you're up in Flatanger now.
Yes.
You keep going back and forth.
So I was there 2 weeks ago, only for 5 days, and now I wanted to go for at least a week, but circumstances just forced me to only go for 4 days.
You have this La Sportiva World Tour thing, right?
Yeah.
In Brno.
Yeah. But initially, I thought like maybe I would go for a week in April, and then I would stay a longer time in May to finally do it. But then checking out the weather forecast and the webcams, and also talking to Martin Movraten, he said that maybe it would be actually a good idea to also come like late March, because that actually is the season to be here, because the cave is just much more frozen inside and it just seeps less. And now as it's warmer, it's actually a bit worse. Like
Because it
2
starts seeping.
weeks ago, it was like crystal clear sky, 0 degrees, really nice in the sun, and like super dry. It was just flipping amazing.
And you were like kicking yourself you didn't come earlier.
Yes. Or maybe I should have just come better rested for that trip. Because I thought it's more like training just to get back into it, like put the quick draws in, clean it, and to get familiar with the moves and come back with the best shape. So now here I am, I think, with a really good shape. But yeah, conditions are acceptable. It's like it was doable. I just be patient.
So did you like panic and try to make attempts anyway, or stick to the plan?
No, I basically stick to the plan. Yes, I had two really good tries, but not yet. But let's see. Hopefully, it will come down this spring.
So these good tries, where do you fall then? Is it up where do you go left to the slope?
It's all about the Crux move. It's basically like that makes the route extra hard. It's like up to there is maybe 9B, and then it's all about getting there. But like getting there doesn't mean that it's a good try.
Okay, so you always get there, but you have to get there to be fresh.
It's basically about 2 moments. It's about how much you can recover in the knee bar before, and like how much you want to like risk it falling off the knee bar. So like basically if you get there like tired, then that is pretty easy in terms of tactic, because like you just have to go for like releasing the hands in the knee bar, because that's the only way how you might have a chance to send it.
Yeah.
But like today, for example, I got there like really good, but then like it would be a good idea to release the hands, while at the same time you think like maybe not really, maybe I can do it even without risking releasing the hands and like falling off the knee bar.
And what happened today?
So I did not manage to release the hands, and so I made it to the Crux move and didn't do it.
Wow. So it's 9B up to there, and then the Crux move is by itself. How hard is that kind of boulder up there?
I don't think it's very hard. That's the funny thing. Actually, I think we discussed so much about this mathematical equation of like linking stacking bowl problems on top of each other in the sport routes, but it just doesn't work. It just depends so much on the style. So I think Project Big is quite unique, because like the Crux move is just so much like pure power body tension, It's not really about the fingers or anything. And that is exactly a kind of movement which is like really hard to do it, even if you're a little tired. I mean, if the Crux was different, it would be like 8B really crimpy boulder round. I think it would have been actually way easier. So all in all, I think like those 4 moves might only be 8A boulder, but just like the nature of the moves makes it extra hard. It feels really easy when you're there as a single move, but it feels so much harder when you're just a little bit tired.
I guess it has to do with the 9B you climbed before. Like what is it really difficult to keep like the core fresh?
Everything.
Everything. You just it's like it's a wrestling match, right?
Yeah, because it's more or less 14 minutes up to the Crux move, ranging how much you rest in the rest before. So like it really depends, even though like the first 20 meters are like 7A, amazing 7A, one of the best I've ever climbed. It really depends how well you climb this 7A.
Oh.
So because then you get into a good no hand rest where like I can rest really well, but the longer you're staying in that rest, the more you get tired when your legs, and then you again make a 8A boulder round, which is 8A boulder round when it's really dry, but it's very seldom to have it very dry, and when it's quite wet, I would say it's at least 8B boulder round. And even there, like you're risking it quite a lot. Like if it's like a little bit humid, you want to do it like as easy as possible. But then you can like slip unexpectedly when it's humid, or like you can like really play it safe and lose a lot of energy. Which ultimately, yes, right above there is another good no hand rest in the dihedral. You do 3 more moves, another knee bar, 5 more moves, and another knee bar. But like when you get just too much fatigue in this little lower boulder round, you just have to stay in those knee bars way too long, and you get your legs wasted. And once your legs are wasted, then actually the hard part where it turns into like this 9B section, let's say, the feet, it's maybe like 45-degree overhanging, but the feet are surprisingly like really small and tiny, and you have to push into them a lot. So if your legs are tired, it's really easy to slip because you just don't keep enough tension against the footholds. And then you get to the final knee bar, which is like really shitty knee bar. And it's all about like just releasing a couple of seconds. And like if there is the fatigue in your legs, then it's over. You can't rest. And unless you're like in a super, super top shape, you don't really stand a chance to make the next Crux.
But there's so many parameters and so many things to keep track on. Does it get super frustrating or super inspiring?
Yeah, it's no matter how much I like the line, looking at it, it's like for me the line of the Flatanger Cave is just super frustrating to try it, because basically you're just always thinking how much you want to risk it in the lower part to make it up all the way there, and then it's about how much you want to risk it in the last knee bar and it don't slip. And eventually, then it all leads to how much power you have for the final move. But even that final move is kind of weird. Sometimes you get there and you think like, everything is aligned, I feel fresh enough and I will do it. And somehow like you just do it wrong. Like technically, no matter, even though I did that move like 1,000 times, it never feels exactly the same. It's kind of a move where you want to scream because it's like pretty explosive of like semi good holds. The right hand hold is like a sloper and left hand hold is like a horizontal crack, which is kind of uncomfortable to like fully crimp it, but it's better because it kind of like helps you to be closer to the wall. And then you just want to but you can, because at the same time you have to keep so much tension on your left foot, which is like a good in cut, but it's pretty low and it can slip. And also like your legs are tired, so you don't really keep enough tension. So you want to like scream, but the screaming is kind of releasing the tension in your legs, so you can't really do it.
It sounds super complex. Like, how
then,
do you keep yourself motivated?
You just want to. I just want to do it. It's like the line that I wanted 10 years ago, and it's like just too good to be true. even though, yeah, that's the way it goes. Sometimes like the amazing aesthetic lines are not really the most fun lines to climb. But the satisfaction is always there when it finally happens.
Yeah, of course, but it doesn't sound like a route where you really get into the zone. It's more like thinking.
No, yes. And it's so hard because now I can climb the 9B kind of like really relaxed mode and just flowing. And then you get to the knee bar where you kind of, if it works out, you also like keep in the relaxed mode and like just try to recover. And then you do 3 more moves, which I don't know, last summer felt really hard, but now I can do them like pretty solid. And all of a sudden you just have to switch and just give it everything you have for that one single move. And it's really hard to switch this mental approach. Whereas like if it's hard for like a longer amount of time, I kind of find it easier for the from the mental aspect. Yeah.
Right. And when it's like this, do you find yourself concentrating on, I mean, looking at your knee pad, if you can change that a little bit, or your shoe, or skin, or chalk, and yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I never really found out if I need like stiffer or softer shoe for my right foot for the knee bar. Because kind of if you try the knee bar as a single move, it feels better if you have a softer shoe. So you can like, the foothold is like basically you have a 40 degree overhang, and that's the part where it kind of gets vertical. So that's not a foothold, it's just like a smear against like vertical wall. The placement for the knee is amazing. That's like huge. But the foot is making it really, really challenging. So softer foot as a single knee bar move feels amazing. But then if you have a softer shoe for like all the lower part, your right leg gets much more tired, because with the softer shoe you just have less. You just have to make more pressure. So I just don't know. With a stiffer shoe, it's like really hard to feel the smear, and you feel like you can slip anytime.
So like basically
exactly like we are making this interview like on the worst day when I was like the most insecure for
the best.
So for example, tomorrow is second day on, so it's kind of easier. I think it's quite unlikely that I will get there the same fresh as today. So I will get to the last knee bar, and most probably knowing like if I don't get to rest well in the knee bar, I don't have a chance. So I'll just have to go for a knee bar all in. So that's easier. But when you just feel too good and the conditions are just too good, and you know like this is the day, pretty much just like how it was today, then it gets really hard.
So how about a hard shoe with a soft lump behind the toe?
It takes time to produce special shoes.
Yeah.
And I thought my shoes are pretty good.
We should bring Pietro. So anyway, you climb tomorrow again, and I guess you do. How many attempts can you do per day?
One. That's
100%
sure. You can only do one.
Okay.
It's mostly for the life. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes, if you like slip off at the beginning of the hard section, for sure you can do second try. But like if you climb the whole 9B and you follow the Crux move, second try, I don't think it makes any sense.
Okay. And then you go back on like tomorrow night or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Tomorrow
night, and then I'll see when I get back if I don't send it tomorrow.
If you don't send it tomorrow, exactly. But you don't have any plan like when you're going back. Just if you're going back.
I mean, it's Vladek is so much about conditions, so it's better to have free time and like return when it's good. But on the other hand, it just doesn't make sense to stay here for like weeks or months when it's bad. And like,
also, I guess
if with bad conditions, it's not a good training.
No, and you also have the. I mean, the World Cup starts soon, right? Well, it starts actually in
I'm,
Japan, but
yeah, I'm doing the first World Cup at the beginning of June.
mm,
Mostly
Prague.
just I don't want to, different reasons, but yes, of course, sending Project Big in spring is also one of them.
Of course. What is your plan for the season when it comes to competitions? I guess you have to do some of them to be able to be part of the qualification and all that.
Yeah. So I'm planning to do just enough to be part of the qualification. But other than that, of course, the highlight of the season is the World Championships in Bern.
Mm.
And I feel like as I get older, even though I don't think I feel old, it just doesn't. It makes less and less sense for me to do the whole season. Also, like I feel there is not so much more to gain as an experience doing more and more competitions. It just works much better to just train, get ready specifically for one or two specific comps and perform there. Competing many weekends in a row to sustain not the best shape but any kind of shape, it's getting progressively harder for me. I feel like.
I guess it's about motivation mostly.
It's not. It's. I think the physical part is really important as well, but it's also the mental part as well. Like, I love traveling for climbing, but I hate traveling for the competitions for sure. So that's the reason why I'm skipping Japan, Korea, and US.
So when do you start with the training for the competition? Like, what's your plan?
That's the thing. Like, even like the last few weeks, definitely my focus was not like super specific towards Project Big, but was more like general preparation for the season.
Okay.
So when it comes to competitions,
also difficult to find a way with like being 100% sure that I will be ready for the competition season, and at the same time sending Project Big.
But you just have to be ready enough, I guess, because the big goal competition-wise must be the Olympics again. Yeah. So about that, what did you learn last time?
First, I think about Ben, and then I think about Olympics, if it works out. Yeah.
But still, I mean, Tokyo. You went big for Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
What did you learn from that experience?
To maybe go a few % less big for the next Olympics.
Like, I mean,
I mean, Paris is so much easier because there is no speed. So,
of course.
And in the end, it's kind of decided also based on the scoring system, because the scoring system makes it crystal clear that the lead routes will be just pumpy, and that's it. And that's basically determines my training. And there is not so much dilemma between like how much I want to invest my time into bouldering and how much I want to invest my time into lead climbing. Because I think I've learned the lesson that for me, some aspects of modern bouldering are just pretty much, I can definitely improve, but my improvement are so tiny that it's probably not even worth it. Like the chance of making these improvements, making my result better in the bouldering part might not really be that big. If I analyzed my Munich performance, both in Boulder as a single discipline and then Boulder as a in the combined, I think if I like specifically trained for the bouldering, maybe I would have made like few attempts less, but I don't think I would like help out any boulder more. So whereas like the specific training for these lead routes definitely make the training count.
Yeah, it's too bad it's we're not in Los Angeles already then.
Yeah.
About that, I mean, this is a big question, of course, but from Los Angeles, climbing will be a program sport, right? So we will get part of the TV money, which we don't get now. How do you think this will impact the sport?
I try to be optimist. And of course we can't. Okay, it will be program sport, but how will really the climbing turn more into sport like tennis with big money? Because we always associate Olympic sports as the sport with big money, but it's not really true. There's
Not
lots
all of
of
them, no.
small Olympic sports where actually there is way less money involved than climbing, I think. So I think the things will just change gradually, but not like really radically. That's my point of view. It's really hard to anticipate. For sure, there will be like much more. Once there will be 3 single disciplines on the Olympics, there will be just lead climbing specialists, bouldering climbing specialists, speed climbing specialists, and in the end, it's logical, and that's how it's been before 2016. I feel like there were pretty few people that were actually specializing in both lead and boulder. So I think we will see more of that in the future, and more like specialization between only indoor climbing and only outdoor climbing and stuff like that. And yeah, mostly the climbing will be different sport. And if you will go into commercial climbing gym, which is already happening now, this will only amplify. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. The climbing is an amazing activity, which will be super easily accessible and cheap activity for millions of people, and that's great.
Yeah, of course. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be possible, though, like you were hinting at it, but do you think it would be possible to be on, like yourself, be best in the world outside and inside?
In lead, yes.
In lead, you think so? Yeah.
I think in lead, it's hard for me to see lead climbing to get even more specialized or even more different to outdoor climbing, or let's say the hard outdoor climbing. I would say it will not get even more bouldery over the time. For sure, the holds might be different, but I think it will be, and I think it's quite clear that if the setting is nothing but slopers, it's really boring to watch because the route doesn't have any flow. So inevitably, I think the route setters kind of understood that the good route for lead climbing, which is nice to watch, is always combination of crimps and slopers. Because if there are just way too many slopers, there are way too many heel hooks and good footholds. And even though like every single move is hard, you just end up climbing really slowly. And when it's crimpy, it forces more you to like kind of go with the flow, and like, yeah, that there's not really so much possibility, no matter how fit you are and light you are, to kind of like hang there for 1 minute. So as long as it's crimpy, it's gonna be always quite similar to outdoor climbing as well, in my point of view.
But you can, of course, which I like as well, on competition routes where you force the climber to switch mode, like you said with your with the Project Big there, like to go from one style to another. That's kind of cool to watch, I think. And
I like that. Yes. I think in general, the development of the last 10 years towards the style which is set right now on the World Cups is positive. I'm a little bit biased because I'm also well aware that this change that happened also fits my style much more than the old school style.
Yes. Of course.
That's all right.
And you make your own holds, right?
I don't think they will be used for the IFSC, and I think that's good. So I can't be accused of like being unfair or anything like that.
True. But on the subject of things developing and changing and progressing, or have you, we have the question from Instagram. What do you think is the next tool or piece of gear that will be socially acceptable? Like, knee pads, for example. It was like a bit from the beginning, people were frowning on it, but now it's totally acceptable. But is there something else that you can see that's coming?
I mean, if I knew about it, I would start using it right now.
Yeah. No questions asked, right? Okay.
I mean, if there are dilemmas like, people don't like knee pads and saying like soon in the future you will just climb with the rubber on the full body, nonsense, because usually in most of the other parts it will be counterproductive.
For sure.
I don't know, like pads for the arms and the offwidths are probably be counterproductive, because it's not only about you want to be stuck in a crack, but you want to be able to move.
Yeah, and then the sun comes out and you're dead.
I mean, for sure, the fans could be somehow taken into the next level, and that would be something that outdoors I would definitely. Yeah, imagine for sure conditions in the hardcore climbing, they matter so much. That's for sure. Having a fan, no matter how strong it is not like changing the nature, or when it's like super dry and windy and it's natural wind, that's all right. We agree with it. We feel like it's cheating, but the ascent is valid. And when the conditions are not there, and you would bring like a huge ventilator, which would basically simulate the same thing as if the conditions are great, that's hard. The fans, they changed the game of the bouldering, of the outdoor bouldering, quite a lot, especially for the skin. I don't think it changes so much whether the fan is like really blowing the air on you when you climb, but it's just when you feel like, when the skin is good, but you give a good try, and then the super skin is tiny bruised, and you're just about to sweat, the fan gives you 2 more tries when you can actually send it.
Oh, really? It's that strong? Wow. Well, I have never used it because I think it's cheating,
And that's only like the small fan, that everybody is using. But of course, you can have something much stronger,
more powerful. Yeah.
So, are you thinking do some hard stuff outside in bouldering as well, or you just concentrating for lead, or you will?
It's hard. I find the sport climbing more motivating on the like absolute limit. Projecting on bouldering is harder and more boring, and so much about conditions and skin. I mean, hard sport climbing is as well, but I always think about, like, when you think about the hardest boulder problem in like a random area, you might have just maybe 20-30 days when it might be climbable a year. I always like to think that hard sport climb, mostly you will get at least double the number of the days when it's actually climbable.
So it's not a small part of you that would rather be in Lovisa now, trying Burden of Dreams?
There it is. I would be psyched for sure.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I think that the Bouldering of Dreams is hard for me.
Yeah, I think the start
might
be difficult.
I think the last move on the link is really hard for me. I think that's the part where I would struggle.
The last move?
I would, because it's a hard dead point move into one hand, and I think you have to go there like really controlled and just hang on one hand. And I think what it seems is like better to 3-finger drag it, because I think jumping, it's really hard to get the pinky on.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like 3-finger drag. I think the first move, I would really like to try the first move. What it seems to me from the videos is that the guys are trying it like not really able to use their right foot too much, whereas Nala seems like really to help with the right foot a lot. But maybe it's just my conception, as I've never seen the boulder.
Maybe I don't. Well, I've seen it, and those feet are really bad.
Yeah. But Nala seems to like really, I don't know, reduce his weight by just pushing his right foot a lot. I was wondering, maybe it's because of the different shoe, but
could be. But then again, I mean,
is using the same shoe as Nala, so
yeah. But then again, Will is looking pretty solid now on that first move.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but still, it seems like he gets the hold, and it's like super powerful to just get it.
Yeah.
Whereas like Nala is doing the move and stop the moment right away. Whereas Will is like getting it and.
Yeah.
Looks really powerful.
But then again, that's Nalle. That's how he climbs, right? Like,
No, Nalle, I think it's like in terms of technique, he's an amazing boulder for sure.
yeah, but I mean, just he's so strong. So I mean, I was watching him on Joya, for example. He was like, you know, looks like 6A climbing, you know, because of the forehead, which is obviously not.
I would agree for sure. Nalle is super strong, but he's a really good climber, and I think comparably, just the pure strength, Will is even stronger.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
Yeah. That's what I hear now as well. Yeah.
Not to take away the fact that Will is an amazing climber as well.
Let's be careful.
Technically, also technically, yeah. I was honestly pretty blown away by him when he went for a visit last year in Brno. Not only like the sheer power, but I was blown away how good climber he was when he went to my home climbing gym making circuits, and how easily he was able to memorize all the moves, including the footholds, and that his flash try had already like amazing flow, and it looked like as if he already tried it.
That's cool.
Pretty cool to see.
But he was then again blown away by your 8C plus there, the
Terranova.
Yeah, Terranova, yeah.
I don't know. I think he has to try it a bit more. I definitely don't. Even though it's a nice compliment that he thinks that Terranova is harder than Burden on Dreams, but I definitely don't think so. And it's, of course, when I did Terranova, I was 10 kilos lighter and my fingers were maybe smaller, but I'm pretty sure I would do it again if I tried it again.
But no trip planned yet for Finland.
I mean, like last week, I would tell you no, but honestly, I was just, because it's relatively easy to get there, maybe just a very short trip just to check it out, how it feels, if it feels doable or not. I'm not saying no.
Okay.
Nice.
Fingers crossed then.
but of course not this spring.
No. I mean, it's. I think Will said yesterday that he was already worried it was getting too late to warm, so he was looking at night sessions. I said. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it would be really cool to see that thing getting finally some repetition.
You mentioned Will's ability to remember all the footholds and what have you. How about yourself? Do you keep track of everything you climb still, like every single route or boulder?
So I don't have like a paper diary where I would write everything down. I would still keep track of all the 8 days that I did harder, both boulder route on 8A. Yeah.
Okay. And how many 8As have you done now? And harder? I
don't know. It would be just too much of a guess. But it's nice that I can go there and count it. But I'm pretty far away from like Dani. Again, I don't want to confuse the viewers with the numbers, but I think like 1 year ago, Dani posted how many 8As he's done, and I was just flipping amazed. It's basically that he's been doing like 150 8As a year since he was like 15 or something. It's ridiculous. I honestly, I don't know if he's counting even like repetition of like the same route. I would suppose no, but I just find it really hard to believe.
That's
even that
it's hard to find
like enough route. It's not a problem, like physical problem of climbing them, but it's the problem of having enough routes.
Yeah, a lot of traveling. And he's always in Spain. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of rock there. But do you remember like the routes you've climbed? Like, do you remember the cruxes, the moves?
So I think I have a good memory for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are blown away how well I can remember a route which I did 15 years ago. But it's different if you do it, for example, in Flatanger. I did this certain route 10 years ago and I might have never done it since. But I watched and belayed so many people on the same route, which helped me to remember it perfectly.
Yeah, explaining the moves and all that, of course.
So
Yeah.
refreshing the memory is always important. Yeah. So for sure, I could tell. Yeah, I can definitely tell you every single move and foothold for La Doradora or something like really important.
But maybe not
for
every
like,
single 8A.
No.
No.
On most of the 8As, I will not maybe remember even one single hold.
So how long do you think you can still push the limits in climbing? You know, you said you are not old, but you are not the youngest anymore.
I hope 10 more years.
10 more years.
For outdoor climbing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
To improve my knee barring and maybe improve my endurance.
And how far can you push it, you think, in those 10 years?
Just a little bit. I don't think I will ever climb 9C, 9C plus.
That's interesting. We got a question from Instagram, which is there any doable project in the world that you seriously consider to be the first 9C plus?
I don't think
see.
So. No? Maybe there is, and maybe I have even tried it, but you know, as I was not able to do the moves, then it's really hard to tell what it is.
Of course.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't think so. I think there are like 5 projects that I tried that could be around 9C level, but I don't think any of them is harder. Because I think a 9C plus should be something like way harder. And just think about like first 9A was established 30 years ago, and it took us quite many years to finally reach a 9C. And I think it will just get harder and harder to push the limits. And I mean, if we get to see 10A in 10 years, then I think it's just because the grading system will not be linear anymore.
But it must be really difficult on that highest level as well, like the 9C level, where the routes are very different, and to see what's your strength, what's your weakness, and to really understand whether it's 9B plus or 9C or 9C plus, or
and
if it feels impossible.
And the routes are more complex and much more beta intense. Because I think if you mostly think about the downgrades in the last 10 years, it's mostly due to different beta being found. And with the use of the knee pads, that like different beta being found is even more likely. Not that the first ascensionist maybe used the knee pads, but just the knee pads are making like increasing the probability of finding some very unlikely knee bar, which maybe first ascensionist doesn't see, and then somebody who repeats it might see it again. So I think the beta finding is making the grading even more difficult. And obviously, as the higher you go, the more you might search for a grade that like fits specifically your style and so on. So I think just the same way as like it's really difficult to grade boulders on the higher grade, it's maybe a bit easier to grade sport routes in my point of view. But yeah, the higher you go in the grading scale, the harder it gets.
And I mean, it's I guess it's the same thing with if you compare things like Bird No Dreams with Alphane, which are like totally different styles. And to say there's the same difficulty, is it or is it not? So different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but apparently what you said there, knee pads and knee bars have really changed the game, right?
Yeah, they changed the game, and they definitely changed some of the existing routes. And I think in some cases, even for some historical routes, the grades should be changed because of the new technology. And I think the existence of knee pads are making the grades a bit less stable, I would say. Also because knee bars are quite morphological as well.
But I guess you can play around a little bit with how you design the actual knee pad and with different layers and different. I like with shoes, I guess, softer, harder.
Yeah, but I don't think it plays that doesn't play that important
Mm.
because for sure, like I don't know, Big Island Sit Start was versus ended with the book, which is a brilliant idea. I have no objection about that. I think that is a brilliant solution to kind of erase the morphological differences. On the other hand, climbing Project Big with a book in my knee pad would be a nightmare. Just because it's so long. And I think it's not super comfortable to climb with a knee pad and the book on Big Island either.
Probably not. But at least it's a short climb compared to the Project Big. How long is the Project Big, by the way? How many meters?
So I think in total it's 60 meters. But that doesn't really make it like a super long endurance climb because it's mostly about the hard section, including the crux, which is 10 meters maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you said you had the 7A start.
Then bowl prone, then like 8 meters, which is not very hard, and then 10 meters, which are really packed, and then 20 meters of 8A to go to the top. Which doesn't change the grade at all. So
no, of course not. And you won't remember it because it's too easy. So.
I mean, I will be definitely very careful climbing those 8As. And I think I will remember it. It's actually like amazing climbing. So it's a pity that you have to climb Project Big to climb on those amazing holes up there.
Yeah. I guess you could lower up from the top and.
Yeah, it's quite a complicated rappel to get there. Because the face above is still, I think, 50-60 meters above, and it's actually deeper than it looks.
When you send Project Big, I say when because you're not going to give up. And you've done this before, climbing really hard routes that you worked for a long time to actually climb. What's the feeling when you do it, and how long does it stay? That feeling.
It depends on the route.
Yeah, but like it's for silence or change, or I mean the ground breaking.
For silence, it lasted for a few weeks actually. That was probably the best. Yeah. For the ride may have lasted for a week. For change the same. For cracking it the same. Yeah. And I think I talked to quite a few people that like projected climbs for a few seasons, and then they were just disappointed. Okay, I did it, and it's over. I never really had such a disappointment about the route where I dedicated really a lot of effort into it, and then when it finally happened, it just feels amazing. But every single route is different, and every single route feels amazing in a different way. I don't know, like the first few days, you just can't stop smiling.
I find that amazing because all you hear is the opposite.
Yes, I actually think the winning the comp is never the same, and it's actually never as good. Because there is not the process behind it. There is the process of the training towards the comp. And like then the joy, the satisfaction of winning a comp is also huge. But I think especially when it's outdoors and when it's first ascent, it's even better.
But how about the Olympics?
I don't know. I didn't win it, so
no. But you really worked for it. So like it was a really long process. So
maybe I would say it's comparable.
But again, it's amazing that you say that.
On the Olympics was very painful, that's for sure. Yeah, but Project is different because even if you fail one season, you can come back. Well, Olympics is the same, you can come back.
Yeah.
4 years later, or 3 in this case.
How do you deal with the pressure actually on the competition? Because everyone's, like expect Adam is coming, he will win or he will bring the medal at least.
Being here in Project Big is a really good training for that. It's even worse, I would say.
Really?
But that's your own pressure, right, on yourself.
Yeah.
Especially here in Flatanger, so much dependent on the conditions and okay, now today is perfect and now I have to do it. And on the top of that, you know where the problem is. You know all the sections where you can slip. And you know all the sections where you can slip, but you really have to push it. Because otherwise you can't do it because you don't have enough power margin. You don't really have to climb like that on the comp. And you don't know the route, which for me makes it easier.
Yeah.
You just go up and you start climbing.
So you feel more pressure in your project than in any competition then?
It's hard it's hard to compare, but I think what makes rock climbing in general really good preparation for the competitions is that you can make the very similar pressure on yourself, which in the training itself you will never do. It's just not possible. Even like the super hard project on Kilterboard or Moonboard will never ever create the same pressure as like standing hard route on the outdoors. And for example, for me, yes, for example, if I go for a national comp where everybody expects me to win even more, it's completely different game. Because I know I can climb really poorly and still win. But it's not like that on the World Cup or Olympics.
No.
And it's not like that on the Project Big. So going for competitions for nationals or like lower level is zero preparation for World Cups or the Olympics, because it's just completely different game. It has nothing to do with that.
So you need more concurrence in Czech Republic.
I mean, I rather prepare myself mentally for the competitions here than on the comp. So, not to say that yes, there is now Martin in deep climbing is really strong. So when there is nationals and I compete, it's fun to compete for sure. On the other hand, the fact whether I will beat Martin or not is not really that important for me. No. It's not as important as standing Project Big.
Yeah.
So again,
of course. Yeah, you can always beat him at the next comp. Maybe.
And in a way, you can always say I can do Project Big next season or next trip, but I don't want. I want to do it now.
It must be still hard work to climb. You have to climb that thing again and again and again and again just to fall at the same spot, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's
sure. I can tell you honestly, I will be so much, no matter how much I love Flatanger, I will be so much happier somewhere else, or like at home with my family, or somewhere in Spain or Italy.
Yeah,
it's definitely kind of turning into a duty, a mission that needs to be accomplished. At the same time, I know when it finally happens, it's gonna be amazing, and for that, it's worth it. It's a nice personal challenge, and it's an amazing line. And as I said, it's a good preparation for the comps. But coming back to this topic, I don't think that many pro climbers have it the same way as I. That they might feel the same pressure on the rock or competitions. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm the way that the outdoor projects are so important, or even more important for me, and that's how the pressure comes with that.
Because it's about who you are, I guess. Like it's more important, the outdoor climbing, the projects, the hard routes.
Maybe, yeah.
Has the game changed a lot since you had Hugo?
Not radically. You know, everybody told me everything will change once the Hugo will be born, and then for sure lots of things change, but it's not like the radical change is not the first thing that occurs in my mind.
So you have no problem balancing family and competition and hard.
I wouldn't say no problem, but for sure I get to stay at home much more, and I'm happy with that. And like training for the competitions and going for a couple of competitions a year, that's really easy with the family life. And at the same time, and also in the future, I know that we are fortunate enough that, you know, if we want to go and live 2 months somewhere, we can go with the whole family. Yeah.
Let's make it easier.
Yeah.
Like Skull Island, maybe, with the family.
Yeah, that's the the location you sent me.
Yeah.
Let's see if Hugo will like it. Actually, do you have more information? Actually, do you have more information about it, or just the picture?
No, yeah, I just Googled it and found where it is, you know. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw that, but Thilo Schroeter, he posted the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And you just randomly found it somewhere on the internet, or
came up actually on Instagram. Like
okay.
I just saw the photo. What's this? You know, it's because it looks amazing. A little bit off, like the beaten track, I guess.
Would be disappointing if it's unclimbable.
Yeah, but someone has to check it.
Yeah, but it seems like in the middle there is like a diagonal crack that
Yeah.
could go.
Yeah.
If it's a crack and it's gonna go on trad, it's even better.
Yeah. Are you keen on trad climbing?
Yeah, I'm keen on trad climbing when it's like nice and safe and like you can just go and give it tries. I'm definitely not keen on like stuff like grit or where it's like really dangerous and you have to like really head point the stuff. Yeah.
Seems reasonable, I think. Should we dive into some questions from the listeners, the viewers?
Okay.
Yeah. Start off easy here. What do you have for breakfast on a normal day?
Usually I used to eat porridge for many years, oat porridge with nuts and fruits. Now I switched mostly for still porridge, sometimes oats, sometimes can be any other cereal, but with some vegetables and some source of protein. Could be cheese or tofu or stuff like this. So it's like well cooked. I think it's nice to start the day with something warm and well cooked, and that's the fuel that will last at least until the lunch.
So sweet to salty. You move from sweet to salty.
I feel like the salty breakfast makes me feel full for a bit longer. And I'm not definitely a person that would have like 2 meals a day, you know, big breakfast and big dinner. When climbing, I need some snacks for sure. At a certain point, I just run out of energy and I'm gone.
Yeah, next one. How many hours are you training per week and how many of them are on the wall?
Quantifying the numbers, I think it's really difficult. I would say I spend maybe 5 hours a day training, mostly training either 5 or 6 days a week. So it could be somewhere about 25 or 30 hours. But I think that might seem a lot for some people. That might not seem very a lot for others. But it's really hard whether you should count like your warm up into the training or not. And like, I don't know, the Japanese climbers, they might spend 7 hours in the gym, but you know, the first 3 hours will only be warm up, either stretching or like climbing super, super easy, which is like something I would never do. So, and some of my training session might last for half an hour, but I would be exercising for 25 minutes out of 30 minutes. So it's really hard to compare.
So how do you warm up?
So I warm up on the ground quite a lot and doing some exercises. And then my warm up on the wall is actually pretty short.
Okay.
I think if I compare all the other climbers on the competitions, I warm up the least. The only climber on like the top level that warms up less than me is Will Bozy. He would show up at the crack with the intention of climbing this 9A. he tried it the previous day, so all the quick draws were in. He would put his fingerboard, maybe twice, like hang 2 arms on a big crimp for a couple of seconds, maybe touch a few holes on the bouldering wall below, and he would go for a try. I've never
This
seen
Doesn't make
anyone
sense.
on his level like that.
That's crazy. Yeah, that sounds
But
crazy.
to be honest, his first try was never that good.
Okay.
So I would, at least
Warm-up try on the 9A.
Yeah.
when he would go for the bowl brown, then he would like maybe do some hangboarding, try the moves in the bowl brown a bit. That would be his try, and then on his next try, he might send it.
Okay.
But it's
Crazy.
maybe kind of close to what I would do. But for like a lead route, I think his way of warming up was quite hardcore.
Crazy.
And how do you train for the like outdoor project, like the Project Big? Do you like some specific training just for it, like
So like setting replica, that doesn't
for
really
example?
make much sense. It's I think setting replica for Burden of Dreams is amazing because it's one of the very few routes or bowl browns which are on like flat walls.
Yeah.
All the replicas in Flatanger doesn't make too much sense, or it doesn't make too much sense to be like really precise, because then the real thing is actually very different because it's like too much 3D. Yeah, I know what kind of holds the Project Big has, so if I have a bouldering session, I might try to like climb on a similar holds. And then you can think about like making circuits or climbing in the gym on the lead with similar level of intensity. So the start can be easier, then it's going to be harder. So I can set a circuits accordingly, let's say. But I don't think you should. It depends. But I'm usually not specifying my training regime too much based on the project that I'm currently trying. Yeah, because I think if you just actually, for example, the climbing in the cave is so specific that if you climb here for 2 weeks, you get so much weaker in all the other stuff. So if you, for example, go back and forth home and Flatanger, it's just better to actually train a bit more complex at home, because otherwise you just get too weak in all the other aspects of climbing, which in the end ultimately can be actually bad even for the cave itself. Your fingers, for example, in Flatanger get weaker because it's not very crimpy. So being super specific for Flatanger, I think is not very good. And in the end, even Project Big has a couple of small crimps. It's actually, for Flatanger, it's quite crimpy route. There are some crimps where you have to crimp hard, but Silence, there's almost no crimp. So
You said you can do 1 try per day in the Project Big now. So what do you do like the rest of the day? Do you train on the wall, or do you just rest till next day, or?
So now I'm training at home and just climbing on the trips as they are short. So I just rest.
You just rest there. Okay.
Yeah. TikTok.
No. when I in summer we spent here 5 weeks, so I could definitely train quite a lot in the meantime as well. So maybe I would climb on Project Big only the first 2 days. Then in the afternoon of the second day, I would train, and third day I would train in the barn. Then rest day, and then again. Then at a certain point, also like based on the weather forecast, maybe I would even take 2 days rest if I see that there's a really amazing spell of weather coming in.
Do you need to rest more than when you have been like 20 years old, or?
Yes. But it's partly because of the age and partly because I think I'm closer to my potential.
Okay.
Because for sure, when I'm trying a 9A or 9A plus, and it's like day 1, for sure I can do a hard 9A or 9A plus on my try number 4 or 5. But because there's still a lot to learn, the fact that I can do it on attempt number 4 is mostly because I'm just technically climbing better. But on second try on Project Big, of the same day, the only difference will be that I will be a bit weaker, and there's not going to be anything like technically better. And I'm so close to my actual potential that I don't think I can send it. But for sure, like for example, Zvěřinec, the 9B plus I did last year, I was really close one day to do it on my second try. But I think usually 2 tries a day on any kind of route, or even boulder problem, is usually the right number.
Okay.
Question here from Insta again. What is the lowest grade you constantly fail on?
I sometimes fall off like 6C or maybe even 6B. But now this is interesting. Don't be embarrassed, and I think this is my advice. Don't be embarrassed to fall sometimes from a route which is like way below your potential. It's actually very beneficial, because it's really good to go with the nice flow, especially onsiding, nice flow. And you know what is the most important for the intuition when it comes for the onsiding is the intuition. To decide where to go, what to do, which beta to choose really quickly, without too much thinking, without too much hesitation. And this is trainable. You are not born with that. And to acquire this intuition, you have to climb accordingly. You have to climb the same, no matter how easy or hard route you climb. And that's why I climb the same, whether I climb 9A on site or a 6B on site. And that sometimes inevitably leads into falling off a 6B, because my intuition fails. And instead of hesitating around, I just end up jumping for something and it's not so good. Or that I don't place my foot super precisely because I want to be like nice and fast and efficient, and sometimes I slip off. And actually climbing super safe, I don't really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great
I don't know,
advice.
like Alex Honnold says that he never falls off, that never in his life fell off unexpectedly. I'm pretty sure I fell off 10,000 times unexpectedly, even in a pretty easy route, because that's the way I enjoy climbing. A little bit risking it enough, but having enough protection that even if I fall off, that it's not a problem. The only problem might be that the potential embarrassment of falling off a really easy route, but I have no problem with that.
But about that, you never become, self-conscious around people when you're climbing, or?
I mean, for sure I do, but I think honestly, I think I deal with that quite a lot. I deal with that pretty well, because I've been in this world for 20 years. People were always looking at me, what I'm climbing and how well I'm climbing, since I was 10.
So you know nothing else.
I'm in the gym and I know that this is pitch number 15, and people see me falling off 7C plus in the end of the training session, it's not a problem for me. But if you show up in the gym and the first thing you would see me falling off a 7C plus, you would maybe wonder what's going on, no?
Possibly. Which song or songs do you play to get hyped for a Red Point Go, a comp, or for just boast while training, to get psyched, basically? Do you listen to music? No?
I prefer silence for most of these occasions. For sure, for outdoor climbing and comps, I never bring music into the isolation. I think, yes, the peace and silence will help me to get the right mode as well. Like, you don't need to motivate yourself before a hard project or competitions. It's more like about relaxing yourself.
Calming down. No boost, just calming down instead. Yeah, makes sense.
And very rarely on the training, if I feel tired, then yes, I might play something. But I like U2, for example.
Do you have some other climbers who inspire you to to climb better, to be like them, or you are Adam Ondra, you have your own way? And
So when I was a small kid, I definitely admired Wolfgang Gierig, Tomáš Mrazek. He was world champion from the same town, and he started like winning just when I really got into climbing. So that was a really helpful, and I think he also made me believe that, you know, coming from Czech Republic, it's possible to win the World Cups. Even because, especially 20 years ago, we had shitty and no coaches and stuff like this. So I think that was really helpful. From the modern climbers, I really like the way Will Bosey climbs. Yeah. I think I look at the style a lot, and if somebody is just really, really strong, but I don't really like the way he's climbing, I'm maybe not that interested. But Will's climbing style, and obviously he's like ridiculously strong. I wish I was as strong as him, but yeah, I find Will really inspiring, and also nice that he doesn't. He's not afraid of any kind of challenge, I think.
That's good, yeah.
Did you ever look up to Vladek because he beat you in this competition once?
I did once, but you have been
2002,
kind of younger than me. Yeah, and it was some makeup like 100 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. On my first makeup when I was 9, I was very disappointed.
I remember we have to push you to the first holes because you have been too small to reach them. So, yeah. Yeah.
But maybe it's also the event that later on in the finals there was a one boulder problem that it was a run and jump start, and they used the gymnastics trampoline.
Yeah.
Jump for the first hole.
Yeah. How is the actual situation in like Czech as in the Czech mountaineering club, or was it? Yeah. How is it like with the coaches and stuff? Is it getting better, or do you don't work with them at all? Or
I think the association is doing a really good job in the last few years. Yes.
So it changed a lot then.
I think it's of course there's never enough money, but that might improve a bit. But definitely the funds from the government could be bigger, especially considering that there might be some tables saying like how many members you have and what kind of successes, how many medals in youth and adult categories. So theoretically we should get much more, but at the same time there's something like you can only increase the budget by 10% a year or something like this. So because in the past we got almost nothing, so then the growth is only slow. But I think that currently the association is working pretty well with the youngsters. There are like team meetings, and there are like part of the climbing gyms are run by the federation with the special routes for the team. So I think especially if you live in my hometown, Brno, the training conditions are flipping amazing.
Okay, cool. It's good to hear. And are there some new Adams coming up?
I think there are some talented kids for sure.
Okay.
I think it's better not to talk about them too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what can happen, you know.
Because sometimes I feel like, this kid, this amazing the talent he has, and then something happens, and and I find out that I was wrong.
Yeah, but if you look at
that's always tricky. That's always the tricky time.
But if you look at, say, a little bit older people, like can you see? I mean, that's actually a question from one of the viewers. Can you who would be the next superstar after you in the world? This is not Czech Republic only.
I don't know. This is too difficult. Yeah, especially as then there's always the growing up period, which is very tricky, and I was very lucky in that perspective. I think it's too early to guess. for sure, there are many now kids around 13, 12 that are not, that in my point of view, are climbing amazingly well and are incredibly talented.
Mm.
And I'm really excited to see, you know, when the talent and the hard work merges. And I think especially back in the older days when, like, maybe now it's actually a good thing that because of the Olympics, like, people are doing a bit of everything. So then actually, even if you're like just endless endurance lead climber, you are forced to do a bit of bouldering and actually develop technically in this perspective. It could be a good thing from this perspective. Because back in the old days, especially for the old school setting, it was just too easy to focus too much on like the power endurance and just the very basic technique. But for me as a spectator, I don't really like watching that so much. I like when the hard work, the pure power, and the enormous talent for climbing just merges. It's like, for example, watching Yanya at her best when she really has to try hard. For example, like, I really don't like watching Yanya in lead climbing when she's like under pressure, knowing that she can win, even if she climbs really bad. But like when she's under pressure, she knows she has to climb well in order to win. That's amazing showcase of like her talent and hard work at the same time.
Agree. Yeah.
And with this in mind, with this new generation coming up and with the right training, the right mindset, and all that, can you see a point where like 9C or 9B plus is not cutting edge anymore? Is that even possible to?
Yeah. Like 9B plus pretty soon is not going to be cutting edge. Or like, is 9A plus cutting edge now?
9B plus?
9. It depends what you consider cutting edge.
Yeah.
So right now, 9A plus is cutting edge or not?
No.
I think pretty soon 9B plus will be like 9A plus today. So.
But that also means that the very hardest routes can't be 9C anymore, right?
Yeah, there will be 9C plus or maybe 10A.
Wow. No. Yeah, of course that's but it's just difficult to understand what it will be like to watch these climbers and what lacks today, really, you know.
No, I think it's quite exciting because with the current climbing gym, the approach, coaches, I think we are still relatively far from the human potential.
Well, where is the human potential in your eyes? What you can imagine as the like maximum of maximum?
It's the problem. The problem with the grading, the grades are subjective. It's not like if you ask somebody, what do you think is the human potential for 100-meter sprint? Then you may be quite accurate, but when we are talking about 10A or 10B or 10C, it's something absolutely hypothetical.
Yeah. And it's also the problem is also like if you have a 10A, the next route that's harder is still a 10A, and then it's 10A again and 10A again. So it's like we don't have hundreds of a second or thousands. We have really
exactly. I think that's often a misconception that if you climb one route and you climb another one and this one feels much harder than the previous one, it has to be in your grade, but it's not true.
Could be easier as well.
Could be easier because it's not your style, or because you were trying stupid beta, or coming back to, again, it's so much about the beta and why it's so smart to work on a project together with other strong climbers. For sure. Like, for example, Chris working on first round, if he worked with someone else, for sure he would spend 100 days less on it, because for sure somebody else would find the direct method, which is much easier, way sooner than he did. And it's not really so much about how amazing climber you are in like finding betas. It's just statistically more minds will find more. That's it.
Yeah.
And no matter how good climber you are, in finding betas, it's just so hard to have the tunnel vision that you think like this is the way, and you just don't see a completely obvious hole next to it.
Especially if you have invested time and effort in that solution, you don't want it to change. You don't want it.
And sometimes you are just so inspired at one single move because you just like the movement so much.
So do you like to work with other people on the hard project? Or
yeah, sure. But you know, it's difficult because usually they don't send it before me.
Tough life.
Well, true.
But if they did, maybe I would speak different, you know.
True.
You know,
but
I think is a problem that there is not like a term, something like team first ascent or something like that.
Oh, there is.
Would help a lot.
I use that all
because
the time.
In the end, the history is only interested in the first ascent. But in the end, if like one climber sends it on Monday and another climber sends it on Wednesday, and they've been working on it for 2 seasons, they both make first ascent. It's just
yeah.
But
then again,
so I think La Dura should be shared first ascent with Chris.
But then again, when the first ascent is done, it's maybe easier to make the second ascent. You know, for some, like the pressure is a little bit off. You know.
Yeah.
So when motivation is low, how do you handle it? Are there any tricks that work for you? Is it ever low?
No.
If
you're not motivated for climbing, probably you chose the wrong sport.
Yeah. Oh, that's hard.
No. But for sure, like it's easier for me to always be on the top with my motivation, like to not always do the very same thing. So only doing the competitions forever will be ultimately absolutely boring. And even like all the time sport climbing is boring. So like spice it up with different discipline, do a bit of boulder or go to Yosemite. It's a great thing.
Yeah, but that's outdoor. Like every board session you psyched for?
Yes, because my board sessions are not just straightforward boring boulder problems.
Cool.
Of course, if I only board session for 2 months, it would be boring. But that's what I never know. So just like focus on your climbing, not to be monotonous. I think in the long term, it's also quite efficient training wise. Even if you have like pretty clear idea that, I don't know, you know that you want to be the best in pure power crimp fast in vertical climbs, I think it's still efficient. Even if your only goal in climbing is this, it's still quite efficient to do a bit of everything once in a while.
More question. What would you say to some young people who want to be like the best climbers in the world? What's the most important thing to, like get there in your point of view?
To make sure that you really, really enjoy it. If you're not really sure how much you enjoy climbing, maybe do something else. I think
sounds fair.
Maybe you can still be the world's best, but if you don't really enjoy it, is it really worth it? So I think the best gift that I've been given is that I enjoy it just way too much. And at a certain point, when I was a small kid, of course, I wanted to be the best. And I pretty much never really doubted that I would become a professional climber. But even if it didn't really work out, it wouldn't be a waste of time because I was just enjoying so much. I was just enjoying it so much. And on the way, I think I just learned so much. So I think that is quite motivating even for the parents of those talented kids, that I don't think that all the time spent climbing will be for nothing. I think no matter what they end up doing, I think it's gonna be a good lesson for the life.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think climbing is a good sport that hard work pays off, being smart pays off, being honest pays off, and being strict to yourself pays off.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's paid off for you, but then again, you always been the best in your age, and I mean, you trained hard, you had the talent as well, and you loved it, and still love it, and yeah, it works out apparently.
Yeah. I know that it's easy for me to talk because I kind of feel that yes. I don't think my life was easy. But the way that it was easy in a way that I always had absolutely clear direction in my mind, and I never had to. Yeah, and I think that was more coincidence that I always had that clear direction. It's not because I'm that way or something. It was just like the big luck in my life that I had. That, you know, I found climbing, I found out that I was really good, and I just followed. And because I liked it so much, it was easy. But on the other hand, for sure, like my life was for in the perception of many other people, my life was probably not fun. It was fun in my perception.
Yeah.
But I think for absolutely majority of climbers, it would not really be so much fun, I believe.
Probably, and you said you just followed, but I mean, you followed for some time, but then you started leading, right? I mean, you leading the way, new grades, and so that's not easy. I mean, it's
but in the end, it was kind of a dream, my childhood dream.
Yeah. But for most people, it's easy to. For some people, a lot of people, the best people, it's easy to get to the top, but to progress from there, it's often rather difficult to push the limits, so to speak.
Limits, yeah.
I think that was quite natural for me. Or I know, especially making first ascents, I was like always attracted and finding my own lines. It was just natural that, okay, I did 9B, so it's time to find some 9B plus. So I started trying to find some 9B plus.
Is it some part of you that's sort of afraid or dread the day when someone actually climbs a grade that you haven't? A sport route? I mean, that's if it's not you that climbs a 9C plus, when 9C plus comes, that actually someone surpasses you. Is that?
I think that at that moment I will be already fine with that.
Okay.
Okay.
But not today.
I don't think it will happen today. I don't think it will happen next year. No. And the moment when it happens, I'll be already for sure not done with climbing, but I'll be already old enough to kind of accept, okay, the new generation is better. Okay. I'm not ready yet for that. You know, it's still when we were working on Excalibur with Stefano, of course, it was like nice, it was playful, it was competitive as well. And then at a certain point, I just decided to give up. And yes, at the same time, I was like cheering for Stefano. Yes, do it. It's an amazing line. It really deserves the first ascent. But then the day when I read about the first ascent of Stefano, of course, it's like, and I didn't do it. But I think it's it's kind of healthy anger too. You know, that's the healthy motivation in competition. And I think it just depends on your mindset, whether it's like draining you or motivating you. But even for me, it's not easy, for sure.
No. You know, there's this Norwegian saying, I think, that says that every time one of my friends succeeds in something, it's like something dies inside of me.
You know, it's easy to slip into this kind of thinking.
Yeah.
But for sure, I always say that it's really important if I succeed on my personal goals, especially on the rock climbing, when it's not about beating the others and so on. On the other hand, for sure, it's not a bad feeling to feel like, I'm the only one who did the world's first 9C. It's hard to take it away from that. But I wanted to say that
you did the first 9C. That was it.
Yeah.
You wanted to say.
No.
Do you plan to go for like some multi-pitch climbing again, or?
Okay. So in the more distant future, I would definitely be interested in making more like maybe alpine or expedition style. I think everything that I did in pitch climbing is far from alpine climbing. You know, it was mostly run out, bolted, and Dawnwall is mostly just climbing on fixed shitty gear, but it's fixed, so it's different than with like, let's say, very sport climbing approach. So definitely going for the expedition is something that I would aspire myself into it, but at the same time, you know, combining it with sport climbing and competitions is pretty much impossible. So I know that I have the time for that. But I think I've grown up in still a bit of like alpine mentality. As my climbers, my parents were mountaineers, and you know, when I was a small kid driving to the crags, they just told me too many stories about how they were trapped in the mountains, and I also always somehow inspired by that, and I feel like I haven't really experienced anything of that, so it would be interesting. For sure, I know that for as long as I'll just be moving my hands and feet, I'll just be sport climbing. I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most, and what you do mostly for the pleasure, and then the hard climb maybe for the challenge. Climbing in the mountains, you maybe not really do for the pleasure, but for the adventure.
How long did it take for your feet to recover after Dawnwall?
Like not very long.
No, I mean, wearing the super tight shoes for such a long time, like, or maybe you didn't. I don't know.
So definitely using the plastics over your toes on the easy bridges helps a lot. Where having different pairs tighter for the hard bridges helps. And then when it gets really bad, you take a painkiller.
Okay. Oh.
But I only took a painkiller after like at least 5 pitches when the climbing all of a sudden just got too painful. But Tommy and Kevin, they were taking painkillers like preventively. After taking rest day and having like their skin perfect. That's what like I really didn't understand. Like, what the hell? Why are you doing it?
I never
like,
heard
after
this.
Rest day, especially I think on the Crux pitches, it's not like question of pain.
No.
If it like gets too painful, that's probably the time like you think like, okay, I have to stop. It's more like on the easier pitches when the fatigue kicks in and you just can't, it's just too painful to push properly with your feet. You take a painkiller and all of a sudden climbing is fun again. It's really amazing.
There must be some strong painkillers though.
No, like one ibuprofen is enough for sure.
Really?
It works really well. And it lasts 3-4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. And I never took more than, and I never take ibuprofen other than that. So, but I have some friends like going bouldering and doing having ibuprofen. I think it's really bad. But in case you really need it, a couple of times a year, it works really well.
Oh.
So that's not something you should do, kids.
300 meters and higher, it's allowed.
Okay, that's the rule, right? It's like international water or something. Sitze wants me to say that the April Fool's joke was the best ever.
Thank you. Is it also a revelation that it was really April's first joke? Because I don't think we made official claim that it was.
Oh, really?
But I was amazed how many people actually asked me how much true and how much joke it was.
Really? Wow, that's a good one then. That's a really good one. I was about to ask
No,
you,
I think
like,
the major confusion was because it was released April 2nd.
yeah.
But the reason for that is actually very simple. Because Saturday is the worst day for posting a video.
Yeah, but also April 1st is the best day for posting.
Also, April Fool.
No, we posted just a teaser on April 1st.
Yeah.
True.
Saying that I will go back into speed climbing. And then the next day, it was the
I didn't see that one. Okay.
I think it's just like a post on the feed on Instagram on April 1st.
Okay.
Saying like, if I can sustain this low voice for 5 seconds, maybe I can go back into speed climbing and be actually competitive with the Indonesian guys.
Okay. That's a good one.
There is can you speak to the importance of mentorship and community in the climbing world, and how have these relationships shaped your own growth as a climber? So you answered part of this question, but like the mentorship and stuff.
That's very hard, Sometimes even myself, I try to, talk about importance, how important it is to be like the leader of the climbing community and how responsibility it is, but in the end we just go climbing. In the end our job is quite simple. I think in a way, for example, I do enjoy doing some of the videos, especially those that I think have some kind of legacy, that simply they do some good, even if it's just motivating the others in a good way. But motivating the others in a good way can be basically climbing anything.
Yeah.
But recording an important pieces of history is maybe important for me. So doing these videos, I think is quite important to me from this view. Not really focusing necessarily like on the topics that necessarily bring the most views, but really doing the things that matter, and they will be the things that people will enjoy watching even in 10 years. Which I think I'm quite proud that we did some pieces like that.
This is a question you probably already heard, but when you were in England last time, you flashed the ace. Did you look at the possible lower start of that one? Looks like there could be one.
Yes, it's not very nice though.
No,
I think there would be a beta with some very, very hard knee bar. The problem is that there is not like an obvious hold where you want to start. So starting from a sit start, it's kind of, you don't know how low you want to start. And the strange thing is that the first holds are actually somehow like very greasy. We were looking at it with Will and like, what is that? So I would say it goes, but it's not like the most amazing line.
Okay.
It would be hard, like for sure 8C or more, but not as iconic and pure as Ace. Yeah.
But if you found a line that you could see was, the next level, but it's super ugly, but you can see this is the next level, and it's not fun to climb, but it's pure difficulty. How would you view that? Would it still be interesting?
It depends, because ugly is just the perception.
Yeah, but I mean,
Define
not
the
fun
ugly.
to climb or anything. Like you don't like visually ugly and bad climbing, but hard.
So if it's ugly in perspective that it looks ugly and it doesn't climb nice and it's really painful, then no.
Mhm.
But there are many things that look ugly and they climb really well. And
For
there are
sure.
many things that actually look amazing and they climb really badly.
Oh yeah.
I think aesthetics in climbing is overrated. And the beauty of movement is underrated.
Agreed. I mean, it happens so many times that you indoors or out that you climb something that looks like shit and it's actually great to
Yes.
climb, but it's
Great movement.
I think I
Yeah.
say that mostly because I grew up climbing in my home crag or Frankenera, where yes, you never really find, amazing looking piece of rock. It's mostly just mossy, green, gray-ish. You don't see the obvious holes, but when you actually get into it, you find the beta. Almost 100% time, it climbs really well. And in the end, the fusion between the perfect rock, it looks amazing and it climbs really well, for me is in the end almost only in Fatanga.
Okay.
That's why I like it here so much.
Hmm.
I mean, in the end, yes, at this point, Project Big is maybe not so fun because, I just know I can do it, and there are certain circumstances that has to just click, and I know it can happen anytime, and I'm just not patient enough. But overall, it climbs so well, and some of the moves are just amazing, and the rock is just so solid, and it's in the most amazing place I know. But that's quite rare. I think what people don't really know about hard sport climbs is that most of the hard sport climbs are on a really chassis and red rock.
Yeah.
And the amount of Sika on every single route is just absolutely mind-blowing. And people don't talk about it at all, especially in the last few years, I think. I don't say that I don't use Sika. I actually use Sika, but I think I use it in a very reasonable way, which in a very hard climbing all across the Europe, I think this is getting quite rare, and I find it quite sad when people don't talk about it.
But at the same time, when you doesn't matter who you ask, they're 100% against chipping is the worst thing, and but I mean,
like
this is,
the general idea of the public is that the chipping doesn't exist. Which was almost true 15 years ago, but I don't think it's true now. It's just somehow hidden, and
So you think it's worse now than for 15 years ago? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
But on a happier note, Project Big, and then are you keen on trying the Sebouin's link up things? Yeah.
In Flatanger?
Yeah, in Flatanger.
So in Flatanger, I've got two dream lines to climb, which is Project Big and Thor's Hammer from the ground to the top, which is basically Nordic Marathon, but with the Thor's Hammer start.
Right.
If I do these two lines, I think I'm done with the case. Yeah. I don't like so much the link up of move into Nordic Marathon. I think that's already a link up. Even though for sure it's hard. And I really hope that, because now there is a ban of bolting in the cave, which sucks.
Oh, really?
Because of there are more owners of the caves, and one of the owners just doesn't want it. But for some things, it's good that there's no more bolting, because for sure there will be many more link ups, which is kind of paradoxical. For sure, I did so many link ups in my life, and somehow in my mind it's kind of justified in my home crag, and I would find it sad to see many link ups in Fatanga. But somehow that's the way how I feel it. Even though, yes, you can say, like, I have my home crag close to Brno, and somebody might have his home crag Flatanger,
Well, not so many, not so many people there, right?
But it's
but
actually
aren't there
3.5 hour drive from Trondheim, which is the closest city. So.
And aren't there like a bunch of more caves there around?
The two
A
node,
few?
which were like thought to have big potential, they have potential, but it's nothing like Flatanger.
Okay.
Doesn't have the same amazing rock. It's pretty choppy rock. Even if you like clean it a lot, it could produce some lines, but it's not as accessible either.
Okay.
It's just not worth it.
Too far
At
off to
least-
clean.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's just to climb on a shitty rock is probably better to climb on like a drier climate and
Yeah.
somewhere maybe in cheaper country than Norway. But the
Indeed.
combination of Flatanger is just like the Flatanger cave is just so unique. I don't know any other cliff that would be so steep with such a perfect rock requiring zero cleaning and produce just enough holds for hard climbing. That's really very rare.
And the house you're staying at there is like you can stay there whenever you want to. How does it work?
So currently we are not staying at the farm. We are staying in Vik.
Okay.
Let's say the campsite is not open yet.
Okay.
So also the barn is not possible to be used.
Right.
It's full of boats and tractors.
Okay. Okay. It's too early.
It's too early.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I'm very embarrassed about. I'm still thinking what I wanted to say. That yes, it's cool that I did silence.
It was cool.
No, that's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to say I always try to at least pretend that it's really important, like my own personal progression, and it's not so important like the comparison with the others. On the other hand, it's cool to be able to tell myself, okay, I was the first one to climb 9C. It just, even though I don't want to admit it, it feels nice.
Of course.
But on the other hand, for sure, you have to accept that at a certain point there will be someone younger and better and stronger who will climb better. And I think it's in a way it's better to be prepared for it sooner or later, not to be frustrated by that. At the same time, it's good not to say my last word too early.
For sure. And I mean, it's part of being human, you know, like.
Yeah. In a way, you know, trying the world's hardest climb or like the climbs on my personal limit is always a bit of dilemma in me between like searching the fun in climbing, because climbing 9A in 2 tries is just so much fun, and climbing 9A every single day like this is just endless fun. Whereas less climbing on a really, really hard project can be fun for weeks or months, but at a certain point it just always turns into a nightmare, inevitably. When you get to the point when you feel like you should do it and you're just patiently waiting. And that's quite interesting. I heard a few friends that they enjoyed the most the process of like trying the route until they find out that yes, now I can do it. And I was always wondering, how the hell you know that this is the time that you finally do it? I was too many times absolutely wrong. Thinking that I can send it next try, and it still took me 4 more weeks. Just because simply I just underestimated difficulty of one move in Project Big. It's this Crux move, which coming from the ground is just so much harder.
What are the good conditions actually, or perfect condition for this route? What do you need, like for yourself, like 0 degree or like, I don't know.
No, wind 8 meters per second from the west, 50 or less % of humidity, and temperature can be anything between 0 to 15 degrees.
Okay.
On Project Big.
Yeah. And tomorrow says it's going to be what? West wind or?
No. Southeast, but pretty strong. which will mean that it'll probably be blowing a bit into the crux part. The humidity, I think, is going to be 55, so it's okay, and 8 degrees. Temperature-wise, it's perfect. Project Big is actually a route you can climb it with a really, really cold conditions, because all the like lower part and all the rest. So like maybe you climb the 7A and your fingers get numb a little bit, but then you like warm up your fingers, climb a bit again, warm up your fingers again, and by the time you're at the crux, there's for sure no way you're gonna be numb. So, and in the meantime, as you climb up, you just keep throwing down, you know, the sweatshirt and the t-shirt. So you end up climbing the crux part in shirtless and shorts, even if it's really cold.
So what are you wearing when you start? You said it's like a sweater on or a jacket or what?
Could be sweater, yeah.
Sweater. Okay, sweater and the t-shirt.
First no hand dress, sweater off, and another no hand dress, t-shirt off.
So that's kind of fancy striptease.
And you have to climb in the shorts inevitably, because otherwise the knee pads don't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Cool.
But fortunately, the shorts and knee pads together, they kind of feel almost like a warm pants, even when it's cold.
So that's something to be improved. Knee pads that are breathing, like breathable knee pads or whatever.
For summer, yes.
For summer, yeah.
But
for right
not
now,
compromising the performance of the knee pads itself.
Never. You should never compromise the.
No, I actually
performance.
compensate. For example, I never use duct tape on the knee pads, even though the performance might be like 1% better. For the rest of the climbing, it just sucks so much that I can't stand it.
Okay. And also, that's the thing that you commented on Will when he almost did Burden of Dreams. That you commented you should shorts and topless. Like that's something I often think about. Like when I see people working hard boulder problems or routes and they're climbing in jeans.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's 1 kilo.
Yep. And have you also found ridiculous when Nala did it, that he did it with a hoodie?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And I don't think it was even freezing.
No, probably not.
I
wasn't
think that hoodie
October,
must
but
have like 400 grams.
at least. Wow.
Why would you climb with that?
I don't know.
Your
if you are too strong.
hardest boulder ever after 200 days into it, and you do it in a hoodie?
to prove a point, maybe. I don't know. Quite crazy. Because now with Will senses, it could be like, what? Where's the hoodie? It's 9A with a hoodie. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely, like over the time, as I climb most of my hardest routes with knee pads on, and thus with shorts, I find climbing with long pants impossible. Yeah, even if it's really cold. Even though in the past it was not really a problem for me.
I understand that. I mean, in competitions, maybe pants is a good thing because you see all these. I mean, a lot of knee bars in competition these days. Well, sometimes at least, and you see people bleeding and all that.
But then in that case, I almost find shorts being better. Because
really?
Long pants for knee bars, jeans are good, but they are usually heavy. And if you want like light long pants, they really suck a lot.
Yeah. You need to come up with a good material there.
Yeah, but I think honestly, the rule no knee pads for the competitions, I think it's quite stupid and ridiculous. Because they really were not counting how tiny border there is between pants and knee pads.
For real, yeah.
What will they do if I will just stick the rubber onto my shorts? At least they should stop setting knee bars. I think that's.
It's also because it's more pose.
But you will always find some knee bar. So
But somewhere like completely obvious, and even the route setters must have known it. And what actually sucks is that if you put really hard and push hard on the knee bar on these fiberglass volumes, it's really bad for the skin. Like the bruises out. If you do the same thing on the rock, it heals pretty quickly, but not in the gym.
Yeah.
No. And also in the competitions, you have the competition next week as well, probably, with maybe a knee bar again. So it's bad. It's really bad.
And I think it's just your choice whether you take the knee pad or not. It's heavier, and it's not expensive. Anybody can buy it.
Afford it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's evens out as well, because on most of the rest of the climbing, it's worse to have it on. You know.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And you're always running the risk that maybe the knee bar that looks good from the ground is not really good, and you are just carrying the knee pad for nothing.
Yeah. Just wait. Like a hoodie. Yeah.
I would like to ask Nale why he climbed Burden of Ribs in hoodie. Maybe another person for the interview. You should ask him, guys.
Well, it's not easy to get hold of Nale these days.
I can imagine.
But yeah, it would be interesting for sure to try. Yeah.
But I think it's quite cool that the boulder problem itself like proved how hard it is and how much ahead of its time it was. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Will would climb it rather quickly, I mean, with the first day there, but then proved harder than.
I think his skin is pretty shitty now. Which I think plays a big role.
I wonder how it's going for Sean. I have no idea how Sean is doing, because he's been there for a long time as well now.
I think it's pretty crimpy for Sean.
Yeah, but it looks good on it.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, with Sean, maybe he's already done it. Who knows?
Yes.
I don't know. Wouldn't be the first time. I mean,
are you going to be in Prague?
Until then. I hope so, for sure.
Yeah,
that's the plan. Just need to get the accreditation.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
I hope there will be a lot of space. I think the place for the World Cup in Prague is epic.
Nice. It's in some big park, is it?
Yes, it's kind of a big meadow, kind of overlooking the city center and the Prague Castle. I think it's the best place you can imagine for a competition in Prague.
Sounds good.
I think it would be even better for the lead wall, because then you would be able to get the city center into the shots as well.
Yeah, right.
I think with the low bouldering walls, it's gonna be probably impossible. And also, I think the IFSC required for the wall to be northeast, which is also not the best angle
to shoot. Yeah.
But I mean, we'll have to aim for the lead World Cup next year then.
Yeah.
Or the year after.
We wanted the lead World Cup because also our team has much better chance of doing well in the lead.
Yeah.
Ishka and Martin as well.
But
yeah, they gave us Bouldering instead of Meiringen.
Of course. And then next year is going to be weird with the Olympic qualifier series.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is really, from March to June or something.
Which basically means like the Bouldering World Cup is non-existent.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite strange, but it is what it is.
What do you think? Is Tomoa qualified for the Olympic qualification, or it's over for him?
It was like just saw like all the social medias and that I'm not qualified. I was like, wow, it's nobody's qualified for the team. Who's qualified now?
It's because of the Japan Cup, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Me neither.
Kokoro already announced that he's not qualified.
Yeah.
Whoa. So
crazy,
hard.
Yeah. It's super hard. Yeah.
That's tough.
Easy in the Czech Republic.
Thank God. And I can be here in Patanga.
Kind of mean.
But I never complained about the fact being from Czech Republic in that perspective.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe many years ago it meant like I get not so much support for going for the competition, but I could do whatever I wanted.
Freedom is also worth something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I can't put a price on it.
Japan, because in their nationals there was not even one single person who would make finals in both boulder and lead.
Mm-hmm.
In the male category. Crazy.
It's crazy.
It's super crazy.
And like the first 3 guys in the lead nationals, I think I have never heard their names.
With the Japanese, that's normal, like every competition there are some new strong climbers.
But top 3 and you don't know anyone? That's why.
Yeah, that's
You just keep and I mean, and then they have all these, like a bunch of climbers, like super strong outdoors as well.
Yeah.
Who are not competing. It's just so many great climbers there. But yeah, tough for them. But I mean, at least Tomoa was already in the Olympics, so.
But that was a very disappointing for him.
Yeah, but Kokoro wasn't. So.
No, Kokoro is not.
He's not qualified. No, he's not. Yeah.
He was. I don't know. He made finals in Boulder. He was quite good in semis and lead, but didn't do it. And then he was 5th in combined. So I thought, okay, that might be enough, but not.
Probably not then.
And Tomoa was, I don't know, 2nd in Boulder, 16th in lead, and now 10th in combined. So maybe I would expect that Japanese to really stick to their rules, but maybe it's Tomoa. I think it's kind of stupid if they stick to their rules, because for sure Tomoa, I think, has the best chance. But
yeah.
And it's actually unfortunate. I don't know. You want to see the best in the Olympics, and it's like one of the favorites is not there. It's just sad for the climbing.
Definitely. Totally agree. But then again,
pretty sad for
Olympics.
Tomoa, because I think he was really good in the Olympics, and he was really good last season, and even really good this year. But he was always a bit unlucky.
Yeah.
Not easy to be born in Japan. Yep.
No.
But then again, that's the thing with the Olympics as well. There's only 20 people in there. So no matter how you do it, it's not going to be like the best anyway. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's a bit of a chance. Like,
okay.
But all right.
Great. Thank you
so
very much,
Adam. This was awesome. And I'm gonna do my best in making you justice. Oh, he's gone.
It was fast.
Oh well. Oh, he's back.
Sorry,
it was fast.
It was actually a very enjoyable evening, so I didn't have to think about the project weekend.
That's always something, huh?
It's about climbing, so that was nice.
Okay, so finger crossed for tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thanks again, and see you in Prague.
Yeah,
all right.
See you in Prague.
Bye.
Ciao.